And still on the world news at 6, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, ex-Senate President David Mark, former Jigawa State Governor Sule Lamido, and other top politicians are currently in a closed-door meeting. The meeting is part of ongoing consultations ahead of the formal unveiling of a political platform for the opposition coalition. Others in the meeting include a former national chairman of the People's Democratic Party, Prince Uche Secondus, ex-governors Aminu Tambuwal, Leo Imoke representing Cross River, Babangida Aliyu Niger, and Sam Igu Ebonyi. The meeting reportedly being held by Mark is said to be focused on PDP leaders' decision to either remain with the party or fully integrate into the proposed 2027 coalition. You recall that 2 days ago, Peter Obi via parallel facts disclosed that by Tuesday or Wednesday, a revelation about him being part of the coalition would commence, or talks about him actually leaving the Labour Party or joining officially any coalition will actually be disclosed. Hereby, the coalition is sitting together to form an agreement as to whom and how the structure of the coalition will become. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court will tomorrow, July the 2nd, 2025, hear the high-stakes appeal in the Edo State governorship election dispute between Governor Monday Okpebholo of the All Progressives Congress and Asuwe Ighodalo of the People's Democratic Party. The case, which has drawn national attention, follows a series of lower court decisions that affirmed Okpebholo's victory in the September 21, 2024 poll. INEC had declared Okpebholo the winner of the election with 291,667 votes ahead of Ighodalo, who polled 247,274 votes. Ighodalo challenged the outcome at the Election Petition Tribunal, alleging overvoting and substantial non-compliance with the Electoral Act. However, the tribunal dismissed the petition on January 2025 for lack of credible evidence, citing the absence of key witnesses and deficiencies in documentation. On May 29, 2025, the Court of Appeal in Abuja upheld the tribunal's verdict, criticizing the PDP candidates' legal team for failing to link their claims to specific polling units and relying on dumped documents. The court also ordered the removal of improperly tendered beavers machines from the record. Undeterred, Ighodalo approached the Supreme Court, insisting that both lower courts failed to address major concerns, including alleged tampering with electoral forms, missing serial numbers on the Form EC-25B, and irregular collation records that he claimed affected the integrity of the result. All eyes are now on the 7-man panel of justices expected to determine what could become a landmark ruling in Nigeria's electoral jurisprudence. Meanwhile, the factional national chairman of the Labour Party, Mr. Julius Abure, has denied allegations that he diverted funds meant for the party's polling agents during the 2023 general elections. Abure was reacting to a claim by investigative journalist David Hundeyi, who in a viral post alleged that regardless of what you have heard, we did not have polling agents the last time out. Abure sat on that budget and became rich overnight. In a statement released on Monday, Abure dismissed the allegations as false and malicious, saying the Labour Party never received major campaign funding and that all finances were handled by Peter Obi's presidential campaign organization. Abure pointed to activist Aisha Yusufu and renowned accountant Pastor Itwa Ighodalo as those who managed the campaign funds and disbursed resources during the election. He challenged Hundeyi to provide proof that he misappropriated any budgetary allocation for polling agents. According to him, he says, as an investigative journalist, David Hundeyi claims to be, if he has evidence that Abure sat on the polling agent budget, let him release it. If not, let him stop weaponizing his Twitter threats to wage a personal war disguised as journalism. Enough is enough. Now, in a very recent outlook, however, Damagum and governors present at the PDP National Executive Council meeting hold more talks ahead of 2027. Thank you for staying with us. Now, the coalition of opposition forces have decided to conclude their plans to formally adopt the African Democratic Congress on Wednesday as its platform to challenge President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's second-term bid in 2027. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, stalling the registration of all Democratic Alliance coalition leaders, have resolved to adopt ADC. The ADC has gained traction as a new political bride following the collapse of talks with the Social Democratic Party. You recall that the coalition was formally unveiled on March 20 with key political figures such as former Vice President Atiku Abubakar and the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party in the 2023 elections, 2023 Labour Party presidential candidate Mr. Peter Obi, and former Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai as members. Speaking on Monday, Dr. Umar Ado, one of the coalition leaders, confirmed that while most leaders have indeed adopted the ADC, the coalition has also resolved to continue pursuing the registration of ADA. He disclosed that those in favor of registering a new political party remain confident that INEC will act in line with the law. It also added that adopting the ADC while simultaneously pushing for ADA's registration are complementary rather than contradictory. Ado stated that two major reasons for favoring the registration of a new party were that he expressed his fears of external manipulations if the coalition simply fuses into an existing party. You're currently listening to the World News right here on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. We'll take a very short break. When we return, more news, and we'll head into a news analysis segment while we're joined via the telephone with Barrister El-Rufai, who is a political, national and social affairs commentator. To kindly stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. You're currently listening to the World News right here on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. Barrister El-Rufai, thank you so much for joining us on the World News at 6 today. How are you, sir?
Thank you very much, and thank you for the invite.
Thank you, Barrister El-Rufai. Barrister El-Rufai, let me start off with the dethronement of 6 traditional leaders. According to what one of the monarchs said, the one who was responsible for dethroning these traditional leaders was that they went to attend a Labour Party political meeting without his consent or without his permission. And there have been reactions from that particular situation that, is this how it's going to be? Is this the machination already being geared up for 2027? How can you dethrone traditional leaders who went to be part of a political meeting just because, according to you, they did not get your permission, so you are dethroning them? And Nigerians recalled how Oro was actually brought in during the governorship election. On the day that the governorship election was meant to take place, they brought in the Oro festival. And they're saying now, would traditional institutions be used to mutilate the elections in 2027 just because the political party of the day doesn't want any form of opposition whatsoever? How do you react to this?
Well, thank you very much. I think this so-called traditional institutions is one of the confusions infused into the Nigerian polity. Because we were supposed to be a democratic republic. We were supposed to be a democratic federal republic of Nigeria. One hardly finds any use or utility for these so-called traditional rulers. And most of them, by the way, are not traditional. They are just like creations of state governments. And they are virtually government agents who are masquerading as traditional rulers. With regards to the derobing of these 6 traditional rulers. One wonders, what is the role of these traditional rulers? Are they some politicians, and should they be featuring in politics? The reason given that they did not seek permission from the Ojora to attend is even ridiculous. Does he normally attend political rallies? While as a traditional ruler, which supposedly you should be the father of all in the community, it looks odd to even attend these rallies. So I do not subscribe to even the notion of traditional rulers, because all of them all over the country. Most cannot trace their origins or their titles beyond the coming of the white man. So they are virtually warrant chiefs who are influenced by the colonial masters. But with regards to attending political rallies, is it part of their functions? Do they need to be there? I mean, I'm not trying to say what the Ojora did, the so-called Ojora did was right.
Yeah.
But if they don't need to be there, why were they there? They should keep away from politics so that politicians can do what they know best. But the system is so messed up. In the southeast, they create this traditional rulers, but almost every family is now a traditional autonomous community. The so-called Sultan of Sokoto gets removed by military. I think one of them was dethroned, and another one was placed there.
Yes.
So they have become a nuisance to the system, and they have become a nuisance, and they are not worth the stress. We should take ourselves serious. Are we a democratic republic, or are we a monarchy? You cannot be doing monarchy and this at the same time. So that is my view on that. If they don't need to be there, why should they be there? But if the reason the Ojora gave was that they didn't seek his permission to go and do what? Who is he? Is he to determine the political fortunes of others? So it's a complicated system, but the direct answer is this. These guys are a drain. They are a source of waste on the economy of the states and local government, because I don't see what role they play. They are not known to the constitution in terms of leadership, in terms of the hierarchy of governance, and they are virtually just appointed by governments to hoodwink the society and the communities.
All right, but Barrister, is it possible? What if, for example, what if it was not a Labour party? What if it was like the party that is in charge of the state that was having a meeting? Would they have needed to seek for any form of permission from this monarch before he dethroned them? The reason why this actually generated the buzz or actually raised questions was exactly why would this lead to derobing this men from their traditional rights just because they attended a political gathering? It's not the first time traditional leaders attend political gathering. In fact, during elections, you see most of these political bureaucrats and political elites go and seek the counsel and blessings of these, traditional leaders in all these communities in the different states they visit during campaign. So if obviously those men went to attend the Labour Party meeting or whatever it was they went there to do, they were obviously invited. They accepted the invitation. Did it necessarily need to lead to this derobing? Has it gotten to this point? Is it a do or die affair now?
No, the reality is this. Yes, you can pay courtesy call on traditional rulers or religious leaders, bishops or mayors in their palaces or whatever. But for them to attend political rallies is a different ballgame. That is what I'm still saying. They don't have any business coming near political party gatherings because they are not category members. They shouldn't have been there in the first instance. But the worrisome part of the whole of this process is for the Ojora to say he did not give permission. Permission to go and do what? Is he in his place to decide which political affiliations the other Nigerians adhere to? So that's why I keep on saying these guys are they are just a drain pipe, a waste to the system. And they create further confusion. In some states, the governors summon them and tell them what party they have to attend meetings for. Do we need that extra waste in this country? We don't.
All right.
So but the reality is this, they have no business. If they call themselves traditional rulers, they do not have any business in political gatherings. But if they have to be there, then I mean, it's not even worth discussing. These guys should be is that of the Constitution, because they're not relevant to the system.
All right, Barrister, the House of Representatives Ad Hoc Committee on Rivers, there was a 21-member ad hoc committee that was set up to actually be in charge of River State, its expenditure. And remember that immediately Fubara was suspended. The monies that was meant to be allocated to the state was seized. So immediately he was suspended. The money was now allocated to the River State General, that is the sole administrator. Now, for the past few months or so, monies were being utilized. Nobody was overseeing it until an ad hoc committee was set up. Now, this is what happened. They invited Eta Ibas like 2 times to appear before them to give a breakdown of how much has been spent in terms of the budget as to certain things he has used the money for in Rivers State. The first time he did not attend. He said a couple of things had not been met. He also blamed the suspended governor and others who worked with him for not providing data for him to work with. So at the moment, he eventually released, the documentation of how he spent money or how he utilized the monies allocated to him. Barrister Eze Eluche, do you realize that the ad hoc committee raised an alarm when they realized that John Vice Admiral Ibok Eta Ibas was given a 48-hour ultimatum to submit a detailed breakdown of key allocations in the proposed 2025 budget, including a controversial 24 billion naira which was earmarked for CCTV installation in the government house. And this obviously was by the chairman of the committee and House Majority Leader Julius Ihovere, representing APC Edo. He issued a directive on Monday. He expressed concerns that several line items in the 1.48 trillion naira appropriation bill cannot be explained. A lot of things are not making sense. There's no correlation with some of the things that were put down there and the projects he said he executed. 24 billion naira for CCTV in the River State House. Can you help me explain what that means, sir?
Well, thank you very much. Shame on these members of the House of Reps who are now demanding accountability. When they were voting in favor of this so-called emergency rule that was totally against the norms and the spirit of the Nigerian Constitution, did they not realize that they were digging a hole for themselves? Why will even the sole administrator bother to respond to these characters? Because they set the trap for themselves. Against the words and spirit of the Nigerian Constitution, they allowed Mr. Bola Tinubu to get away with the illegality and unconstitutional appointment of a sole administrator of a state where there was no emergency. We have seen states where there are emergency. We have seen in Benue where 200-300 people get killed in one day. We've seen in Zamfara, we've seen in Kebbi. We see where there is real emergencies. Nothing is declared. But somehow, surreptitiously, Bola Tinubu declares a state of emergency in River State, and these characters approve it. Now they are demanding for accountability for who they did not appoint, from who the Constitution does not allow or recognize its existence. They are jokers. And more importantly, let us not forget that when the Supreme Court ruled that no funds of River State government should be released to the state without a formal and due local government elections, you will now ask yourself, when these elections take place in local government in River State, why are these funds being released to the state? So even the release of funds to the River State government from the very onset is unconstitutional. It's against the judgment of the Supreme Court of Nigeria. So all the parties who are part of releasing those funds, including the Central Bank Governor, including the Academians of the Federation, and these so-called members of the House of Reps, are all guilty and have all acted against the Supreme Court judgment.
Barrister, you can imagine that the House members themselves had to raise the alarm because inconsistency was too glaring. For example, they queried about beyond the 20 billion. Sir?
Listen. They forget the 30 billion or 100 billion. That is not even the issue. You see, once the foundation is rotten, once you have laid a faulty foundation, you can expect all kinds of nonsense to take place. The House does not have any right to begin to cry foul because they were the people that institutionalized foul from the very onset by supporting the announcement of an emergency in River State. So what they get is what they get. They should, in fact, if I was the sole administrator, I will not bother to respond to them, and they will do no jack because they sold their respect, they sold their constitutionality by even supporting this illegality. And now they are crying. Crying for what? So look at the 5 billion. Is that the issue? 100 billion. Is that the issue? When they were supporting illegality, they should have known that this will happen. And that's what Nigerians should begin to think of. We don't just look at the instant, the immediate. We think of the long-term consequences of our acts of illegalities. The House and the Senate supported illegality by approving the emergency rule, which Mr. Bola Tinubu requested for. Now, part of the consequences are the broad day robbery that is going on. Yes, you said right. 25 billion for CCTV.
24 billion for CCTV, 30 billion naira for the purchase of gun boots, 23 billion naira earmarked for contingency reserves, requesting justification of the sum.
Wow. I mean, it's more, in fact, maybe the guy is even kind. If he had said 100 billion for purchase of television sets, who will say no to him? Is it the same group that agreed to unconstitutional acts from the onset? So they should keep quiet. They should keep quiet, or they revert back to the constitutional issues, which is no, there should have been no state of emergency in Rivers State, and then they should adhere to the Supreme Court judgment, which provides that no funds should be released to Rivers State government until they have properly constituted local government elections. Till date, my dear, no such local government elections have been held. So any kobo that was released to this sole administrator of Rivers State was illegitimately released. That's what I want you to understand. The issue is not the 25 billion, which he now claims he's going to use to buy CCTV. Who knows whether it's going to be supplied by angels? But the reality is there is a fundamental flaw, fundamental illegalities, which have to be corrected and addressed, and not just this peripheral issue. Thank you.
All right, now going still in concerning the FCT minister this time around, while that is in Rivers State. So you know that last week, People's Gazette released an exclusive of how one of the sons of the FCT minister was allocated plots of land worth some billions of dollars. Now that one's name is Joaquin, and according to the receipts that particular publication released, they called it JOQN Farm Limited, so meaning that they gave out farmlands but with the son's name. Now the second son, whose name is Jordan, the 25-year-old first child of the FCT, also received another prioritized and fraudulent land allotment across the FCT capital. Again, from this same exclusive report from People's Gazette. So, Gazette reviewed that Wike, who recently completed his master's degree in law at a UK college, and also the beneficiary of at least 1,740 hectares of land worth $2.85 billion allocated over the past year, including pricey lands his minister father, Nyesom Wike, abruptly took from original owners from his arcane pretext of non-compliance with land use regulations. So apparently some of this lands taken over from certain persons have been allocated to his sons. But the FCT minister, though, has come out to debunk such a claim, saying that it's not true. He's not giving lands to his son. Again, this is the second publication by this particular publication situated right here. So will they release this kind of exclusive if they had no evidence to prove that the FCT minister was indeed collecting lands from the original owners, siphoning it for his personal use, and possibly using his two sons as certain as persons, you know, that will be in charge of this lands, of different company names, but being in charge by his sons? How would you react to this, sir?
Well, Nigerians should keep on bearing all these things in mind as we head towards 2027 and realize that we must put a stop to all this nonsense, which is all this high levels criminality packaged as governance. I mean, what will you start from with regards to Nyesom Wike? Is it the fact that teachers in Abuja have been on strike for more than 2-3 months now, and his over salary issues, or the fact that the local government, the staff in the FCT are picketing the office of the minister for over 2 weeks now, and the man is busy dishing out millions? I mean, the other day they commissioned, they renovated the International Conference Center at the cost of over 39 billion. This was a place that was built for a few hundred millions when it was built. So Nigerians should keep on stomaching this and let it be the reason why this rascality must be stopped as soon as possible. Because these guys will continue to do this. Nobody's surprised. Nobody's surprised. But Wike can even, like Yahaya Bello was doing in Lokoja, pay the school fees of his unborn born children in US dollars with public funds and still be walking around the streets free until we make a change, a fundamental change to our structure. Will continue to be faced with such rascality in high public offices. Are we sufficiently provoked to say enough is enough? That is what Nigerians should be asking themselves.
Okay.
As for this kind of criminality, we keep on hearing more of it. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if in the very near future, perhaps part of Abuja will even be renamed as Bola Tinubu, or maybe Abuja will be named as Bola Tinubu itself. It's
With most of the edifices being currently renamed, right? So you will not be surprised.
Yes. So these illegalities and criminality will continue. And then we should just rile Nigerians up. It should be enough to make us say, look, enough is enough, and come out ready for these characters. Because they will do whatsoever they can do to see that they continue in office. It is left to Nigerians to say enough is enough. Those who say they will not risk their lives. Can you imagine how many people have died in the past 2 years due to the maladministration of these characters? How many people that have died because they could not afford to pay consultancy fee in hospitals? How many people have died because they watched their children die of malnutrition? So let us these particular instances of fraud should only be bottled up and let it sink in that we must come together and ensure that enough is enough.
All right, Barrister, ex-Vice President Atiku Abubakar, former Senate President David Mark, former Jigawa State Governor Sule Lamido, several other prominent figures of the People's Democratic Party, they have commenced a high-level closed-door critical meeting in Abuja. This is part of the coalition. Now, the coalition has decided to adopt an ADC. They say the ADA, they complain that there are issues with registering it. INEC is taking time to go about how they would register the political party. So in order not to waste time, they are adopting another political party. 2 days ago, Peter Obi was on Parallel Facts, a space where he addressed more than 11,000 Nigerians on that space. A critical question was asked to him concerning him being part of the coalition, which he solidly affirmed that every coalition he's actually been part of, and that he's part of a coalition that obviously prioritizes Nigeria as first. So, in other words, he did not literally tell us if he has officially left the Labour Party to join this coalition, but he has admitted that negotiations are ongoing. He's been having negotiations with all the coalition groups. The APC is confident that all the coalition talk is nothing, that is not going to amount to anything, because you have the same recycling of politicians who belong to this current political party in charge now being part of this coalition. So if that is the case, do you see Peter, obviously we're in a deadlocked meeting at this moment, what if the ticket is not zoned to him? What if he doesn't get the ticket? Does that mean he's going to support whoever emerges, and then possibly his movement will now partner with anybody that emerges to unseat this administration in 2027?
Well, let us be pragmatic and practical at this instance.
Okay.
I mean, Nigeria must survive and move forward, and we should not even rule out any eventuality happening. Yes, for now, one of the best minds or the best brains that can lead Nigeria forward is the person of Peter Obi.
Yeah.
But if for any reason this will knock him off, I would say that Nigeria will not move on.
Obviously,
I would say that there's no other Nigerian who can come up. So the reality is this: the days are still far off, and I'm sure in the grace of time, proper arrangements for coalition will take place, and then Nigerians will at that time be able to decide on who will lead the coalition to the next level. But one thing we must all agree is that these characters at the top now must be shown the exit. That must be incontrovertible, and we hope that the political leaders are able to come together and coalesce and bring out the best for Nigeria's interest.
Barrister Eze, do you see a possibility of this? If we're already experiencing what happened today, whereby a monarch dethroned 6 traditional leaders because they attended a Labour Party meeting. Now, it's obvious that as it stands now, Peter Obi is not necessarily really vibrant in the Labour Party, because you know what exactly is going on with the party. In fact, the local government elections upcoming in July 12, we've not even heard Peter Obi talk about it or address any member or contestants or aspirants, with the Labour Party party. It's like the party has been organizing its own with whoever is aspiring for the local government elections. You can actually say that Peter Obi is almost an absentee member of the Labour Party. So let's just say that he's not active in it. If Peter Obi is the target, is the reason why you think that there will be a possible situation where this monarch will derobe these individuals. Why derobe them? He's obviously not part of those in the meeting today. It's possibly other Labour Party members. So has it gotten to a situation where if traditional institutions are used like this to possibly hogwash or hoodwink or stifle any other opposition from the APC, how do we know that 2027 more wouldn't be implemented like this at the polling units? That's one. Two, Barrister El-Rufai, one of the head of the APC Mobilization Youth, has promised the administration campaign has become straight on. They promised to deliver 10 million youths for the APC come 2027. They have begun to galvanize support bases, have commenced. Money is already being spent ahead of that. So how, if they seem fully prepared, they're on ground utilizing every available opportunity to ensure that 2027 goes on the path for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, how do we know what this coalition will do? How do we think they have structures on ground to ensure that they're not intimidated at the polling units on the said day?
Well, the thing is, they can do all the plans they want to do, they can make all the noise they want to make. The reality is this: the group that is promising them 100 million or 200 million youth is just talking about the brush. The reality is that even they themselves who are making all those comments, can they go back to their streets and say they will even campaign for the APC come 2027? No. So this noise they are making, this jostling for to assure the ruling party of votes, is just a means or a ploy to extract or get their own piece of the loot. So those characters, those young men are just ganging up together to say, okay, these guys have stolen so much, how much can I get? And then they use all this kind of proofs about assuring them of 100 million votes. When the time comes, we will know where the votes are. But with regards to your earlier question about Labour Party, Labour Party and the PDP have virtually been destroyed by federal government manipulations. With the PDP, the federal government has used Wiki effectively, and with the Labour Party, they have used both the chairman of the party to also destroy the party. So yes, it is proper that Peter Obi does not even stick out his neck with these parties. And in due course, the party that will be used to for the 2027 elections will come up. But I'm sure, I'm very certain, 100% certain, that it's not going to be the Labour Party and it's not going to be PDP. So let's not forget that. And in due course, I think the meetings are going on, the questions are going on, and this confusion is even good, so that the federal government itself, that thinks is always very wise, will realize that, look, there may be a joker that they are not aware of. And that joker in due course will be played. And Nigerians are looking eagerly towards it so that we can make the change that is required. Because at current rates, this country is doomed. Even with the way they are displacing the resources of this country, with the way the humongous looting is going, 2027 is too far to change these characters, to kick them out of office. But Nigeria has to bear it because we have to do it in a legal proper manner. But we must ensure that this kind of level of high-scale robbery in the name of governance is not allowed to continue for a day beyond May 2027.
Interesting. Barrister El-Rufai, thank you so much for taking your time and giving us your perspective to some of the stories read out on the World News at 6. I sincerely do appreciate your input.
Thank you and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Barrister El-Rufai. And that is a wrap on the World News right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. We'll actually employ you to stay with us for the evening rush, which commences at 7 o'clock, where we get to delve into more national issues across Nigeria's socio-economic and political landscape. My name is Esther Wachuku. Good evening and thank you for listening.